DOULUO DALU Chapter 14, Evil Eye White Tiger Dai Mubai. Part 1. Tang San smiled slightly, saying, I call it a sleeve dart, it's also known as a silent sleeve dart. It only requires using a switch and 3 darts inside will shoot according to your control. It can fire one, and also can fire all 3 at once. Because the noise of launching is very small, it's not easy for the opponent to detect, therefore, when confronting enemies on par with you, it's able to produce very good effect. Xiao Wu astonished said. Before when we exchanged pointers, how come I did not see you using this kind of thing? Tang San smiled calmly, saying. Blockhead, we are fellow students, and also friends. How could I use this kind of deadly weapon? Still remember that time I used stones to hit you? You think that was only coincidence? Look, over there is a mosquito. Xiao Wu followed the direction of Tang San's finger. 3 meters away, sure enough was a buzzing mosquito flying, and it could with difficulty be seen with the aid of moonlight. If I told you I could hit its left wing, and not kill it, what would you say? Xiao Wu stared at him saying. Are you joking? Purple light flashed in Tang San's eyes, abruptly raising his right hand, a faint shadow softly passed, and that mosquito disappeared in thin air. Pulling Xiao Wu's hand, Tang San said. Follow me. Pulling her to walk a short distance to stop before a large tree, not needing Tang San's finger, Xiao Wu also could distinctly see, on the tree trunk was a 3-kun long steel needle, glittering under the illumination of starlight. Nailed by the needle to the tree, something seemingly struggled with all its effort. Xiao Wu lowering her head for a careful look, and could not help but shocked make a strangled sound. Under that needle was nailed that same mosquito, the steel needle piercing the mosquito's left wing, firmly sewing it to the tree, and by that mosquito's thrashing about, obviously without danger to its life. Ho, how did you do this? Xiao Wu gasping with astonishment looked towards Tang San. If not because she had all along been together with Tang San, she even would have thought this was prepared in advance. Tang San pulled out the steel needle. When he again opened his hand, the steel needle had already disappeared. This is my secret, I call it hidden weapons, even Dad doesn't know. I only want to tell you, I have the strength to protect my own little sister. Regarding new things, Xiao Wu was always very interested, excitedly shaking Tang San's hand and saying. Good big brother, can't you teach me that? Tang San said with a wry smile. With your violent tendencies, if you also learned hidden weapons, who knows how many people would suffer disaster. And also hidden weapon cultivation is not an overnight matter. The sleeve dart I gave you is also a kind of hidden weapon, so first grasp using it well. Wanting to study Tang sect hidden weapons certainly was not easy. First of all one must have mysterious heaven skill as foundation, and Xiao Wu's spirit power already was not weak. Cultivating mysterious heaven skill anew was clearly impossible. Tang San had already secretly resolved, afterward he would make some mechanism-type hidden weapons equipment for her body. This should also be considered as sufficient. Tang San personally put on the sleeve dart on Xiao Wu's left arm, properly adjusting the sleeve dart's size, completely fitting to Xiao Wu's wrist. Afterwards he explained once the silent sleeve dart's use method details to Xiao Wu, letting her try it out several times. Xiao Wu was practically immediately in love with this treasure. As Xiao Wu left to one side to try shooting the sleeve dart, Tang San slowly raised his head, watching the stars overhead, saying to himself. Dad, do you truly fear I would be unable to become strong at your side? You be at ease, I will work hard at cultivation, become a true man. Inevitable one day, I will become your pride. Tang sect, I already left you for 6 years, but I will always be a Tang sect person. In this DOULUO continent, I definitely will carry on Tang sect's everything to new heights. A pair of hands like shining white jade suddenly threw out, light like countless threads of silvery light towered up, and in Tang San's eyes already was a purple radiance. 5 years later. Ballot Kingdom, located in South Heaven Do Empire, bordering with Faisanil province. Speaking of this kingdom, its actual area was only 4/3 of Faisanil province, subordinate to Hevan-Do Empire. Within the borders of Hevan-Do Empire it was one of 4 great kingdoms. Balak's king Kundala was the current Hevan-Do Empire's king Aokula's younger cousin. Southern Balak kingdom bordered directly on DOULUO Empire, consequently, among Hevan-Do Empire's 4 kingdoms, Balak kingdom's military strength was the most powerful, and it could also be said to be the gateway to Hevan-Do Empire. Hevan-Do Empire originally had 10 provinces that were later divided among the 4 great kingdoms forming 6 powers. The empire itself directly controlled 5 provinces, the 4 great kingdoms each controlled 1, and there was still one duchy second only to kingdoms, occupying the smallest province on the empire's eastern side. On the surface, the 4 great kingdoms and 1 duchy must all be subject to Hevan-Do Empire's rule, but in fact, these 5 states long ago already became nations within a nation. Besides the necessary tribute, they were all entirely independent. If not for Hevan-Do imperial family controlling a large number of troops, perhaps a civil war would long ago already have appeared. DOULUO Empire also had similar circumstances. Consequently, while the 2 empires looked to be strong forces, in fact both were in decline. If someone spoke badly, that day the entire continent's situation would abruptly transform. Within Balak Kingdom were 2 most important cities. One was Balak King Kundala's resident capital Balak City. Here was the heart of the entire Balak Kingdom's politics and industry. And the other city was located at the richest granary within the borders of Balak Kingdom called Suotuo City. These 2 cities both had massive garrisons, and were the entire kingdom's highest priority. Suotuo City was a large city. This bit could be seen from spirit halls allocated as the 3rd-ranked Lord's Spirit Hall. Currently just past noon, the blazing sun shining fiercely, at Suotuo City's west gate entered 2 youths. By looks, they both only appear to be 10-some years old, not carrying any luggage, 1 boy and 1 girl. Part 2. The boy's clothing was simple, looking like 12 or 13 years old, about 1.70 m tall, wearing a pale blue fresh attire, very neat. Around his waist a belt inset with 24 pieces of jade, black hair hanging halfway down to his shoulders. Facial features, although not considered handsome, gave people a kind of very easy to get along with feeling. At the corners of his mouth he continuously wore a slight smile. If saying of the boy looked gentle and ordinary, then, the girl at his side looked not as common. Silky smooth black long hair combed out into a neat scorpion braid. Even though it was a braid, it still hung down to her lower back. Compared to that boy she must still be a little bit taller, wearing small pink clothes, tightly covering a figure already begun developing, if speaking of chest still said to be inadequately developed, but her slender small waist could cause countless women envy. Tall and slender taut legs wrapped up in trousers, perfect golden ratio proportion. Even though her age appeared not old, her face was still childish, but a perfectly round little buttocks were already somewhat hinted at. The natural shape of curved eyebrows, a pair of bright and intelligent big eyes matching a somewhat round soft and fair little face, not only pretty, also giving people a somewhat charming feeling, the word lovely seemingly made to measure her. That boy standing at her side, was long ago concealed by her intangible radiance. The girl raised her hand, wiping her slightly moist forehead, and somewhat grumbling said, "Finally reached this Suotuo city. I truly don't know how Grandmaster thought. Obviously quite a few intermediate spirit master academies expressed they would unconditionally recruit us, yet he asked you to come take the examination here at that not even separating grades worn down academy." The boy smiled slightly, saying, "Teacher asked me to come take the examination, but did not ask you to come. Who asked you to insist on following? Fortunately Balak Kingdom borders on Faisanil region, if not wouldn't you have to be complaining even more?" The girl stared coldly at the boy. "Truly without conscience, everything is not for your sake. Who asked you to be my big brother? Anyway the day after tomorrow we can take the examination. No matter what, you must accompany me to play in Suotuo City for these 2 days. make good the injuries to my young and small heart." The boy couldn't help but laugh and said, "The formidable Knitting Academy's supreme sister for 6 years in a row, still has a young and small heart? Let those younger brothers of yours see that. I do not know whether they would immediately go jump into the river." This boy and girl were exactly Tang San and Xiaowu from Knitting Primary Spirit Master Academy. 5 years' time had passed, and they at long last successfully graduated from Knitting Primary Spirit Master Academy. Of course, with their talents, Knitting Academy intended to recommend they immediately enter Intermediate Spirit Master Academy, even to the extent of having several famous academies issue invitation letters, giving an abundance of places to choose from. But Grandmaster demanded Tang San turn down the invitations, and go to this South Suotuo City place known as Shrek Academy to enter for examination. 6 years of instruction, regarding Grandmaster, Tang San long ago already respected him like a father, let alone understanding him. What Grandmaster asked him to do this, it was certainly for his good. Therefore, he complied without the slightest hesitation. Over the past 6 years, Tang San and Xiaowu's relationship long ago became close like blood siblings. If Tang San chose here, then Xiaowu naturally also followed. When leaving the academy, Grandmaster told Tang San he must go to the imperial capital, then afterward would come find them. The 6 years in knitting was to Tang San an extremely rich 6 years, morning classes, afternoon work, evening cultivation, practically without free time. At 12 years old he already no longer resembled that originally frail look. Working in the smithy every day gave him a healthy and strong physique, although looking at him he could not be considered majestic. The body covered by the fresh clothing was full of explosive force muscle. Xiaowu pouting said, "Regardless, do you promise?" Tang San laughed, saying, "As you want. Only, having traveled so far, aren't you tired? We should first find a place to stay and speak again. Also it's almost noon, so eat first, right?" Xiaowu smiling said, "This is just about right." Tang San very rarely went against her words. Ever since the two people established a sibling relationship, he all along took care of her like a big brother. Although he was very busy, the unexpectedly displayed consideration still gave Xiaowu a pleasurable kind of feeling. Suotuo City compared to Knitting City must be much bigger, and naturally also must be much livelier. On the street, everywhere could be seen patrolling soldiers, a bustling stream of people were passing by non-stop. The two first simply ate some small things, and afterwards looked for a place to stay. Soon Xiaowu discovered a very unique hotel. The hotel was 3 floors tall, and although the size could not be considered too large, the exterior adornment was completely rose red. The entire hotel building style was like an enormous rose, very easily able to give people looking at it a certain feeling. "Rose Hotel. Little San, will stay here." Xiaowu pointed. Tang San unnecessarily said, "I hear you." Working these several years, adding to the stipend given by Spirit Hall, he by now could be considered as having some savings. Xiaowu never cared about amounts of money, spending extravagantly, so in order to not let her overspend, she simply let Tang San hold her income, letting him put it away. Having him control some, she still could save a little. Walking into the Rose Hotel, the first sensation was a smell of rose fragrance, a scent penetrating deeply into the heart and bringing a somewhat hidden warmth feeling, making people's hearts free from worry. The interior decorations of the hotel only had 3 kinds of color: white, silver, and rose red, warm and unique, very easily giving people a good feeling. Tang San walked up before the counter. "Trouble you to give us 2 rooms." The clerk behind the counter hastily stood up, taking a look at Tang San, again looking at Xiaowu, eyes revealing some envious light. "Sir, must it truly definitely be 2 rooms?" Tang San nodded. "Is something wrong?" The clerk's eyes showed some uncertainty. "I'm sorry, we only have 1 room remaining here." Part 3. 1 room. Tang San frowned. As a 2 lifetimes person, the little time sharing a bed with Xiao Wu did not feel significant, but after all by now these two had gradually both gotten grown-up figures, he could still very clearly remember the words about no direct contact between men and women. The clerk said with emphasis. Yes, only one. However, you be at ease, all our rooms are very big, and the facilities have everything one might expect, more than sufficient for staying 2 people. Speaking, he also gave towards Tang San an expression that could only be sensed and not explained in words. Of course, Tang San was unable to make sense of it. Xiao Wu said with a big grin. That one room is fine. When we were at Nyuding, didn't we always stay in the same dormitory? Like this. We can still save a little money to buy beautiful clothes. Tang San couldn't help but shake his head. He was not an obstinate person. At worst he would sleep on the floor, at night would also cultivate, that could be the best sleep. Fine, I'll trouble you to give me this room. Just when the clerk was helping Tang San put in order the formalities, a voice out of nowhere interrupted the clerk's actions. I say, this room should belong to me, right? Tang San and Xiao Wu simultaneously turned around to look, only to find 3 people appeared behind them, walking over towards the counter. These 3 people were 1 man and 2 women. The 2 girls gorgeously dressed, looking to be 17 or 18 years old, figures tall and slender, compared to Xiao Wu still must be a bit taller, but what caused the most surprise, their features were unexpectedly exactly alike, they were actually twins. But, Tang San's gaze did not fall on those 2 stunning beauties, what attracted his attention was the man walking in the middle. The man was about 1 meter 80 tall, compared to him would be half a head taller, appearing not old, even to the extent that he must be a bit younger than the 2 young women behind him, broad shoulders, features handsome and somewhat resolute, a head of long golden hair unrolling behind him, falling down nearly to his waist. His hair did not curl, and hung straight down. Most eye-catching were his eyes, those were a pair of evil eyes. Both eyes unexpectedly had twin pupils, within the deep blue eyes was a very cold gaze, a kind of icy cold evolving from the depths of the heart, an evil light glimmering between half-open eyelids. Under his gaze, the whole body felt like cut by a sharp sword. With extremely handsome features matching this kind of pair of eyes, this kind of man, regardless of where would be a focus of people's attention. He was very powerful. This was Tang San's first thought after seeing this person. The twin young women held the arms of that twin pupil man. He also took no notice of Tang San. His gaze after sweeping across Xiao Wu's body, flashed out a trace of astonished light, but this was only a passing glimmer, nothing more. Walking up before the counter, looking at the clerk, the youth said. You are newly arrived, right? Unaware to nevertheless leave 1 room here for me. The clerk was stunned a moment, and probingly asked. You are? The twin pupil man somewhat impatiently said. Call out your manager. The clerk under the twin pupil man's gaze, heartfelt appeal of cold, hurriedly went in back to call his superior. Tang San coolly said. Elder brother, seems we were here first. The twin pupil man did not even turn his head, only coldly said. So what? He habitually did not face people explaining. Tang San's temperament was considered mild, but Xiao Wu could not that well be bullied. In a flash she already came to Tang San's side. No how, so you scram. The twin pupil man finally turned, ice-cold evil gaze falling on Xiao Wu, nodding. Very good, for a very long time there was nobody who dared speak like this to me. Your bodies also have spirit power fluctuations, should be spirit masters. Then you together, if strike me I will immediately leave, otherwise, you please demonstrate at once this scramming. Hearing the words of the twin pupil man, the twin young women at his side couldn't help but have silly smiles, appearing to have not a bit of worry, cutely letting go of the twin pupil man's arms, retreating to one side. Just at this time, that previous clerk already brought out a middle-aged man from the back. He had obviously heard the twin pupil man's dialogue with Tang San and Xiao Wu, face wearing an anxious expression. Let me speak, by no means fight. The twin pupil man gave him an oblique look. Manager Wang, you are currently more willing to do business, ah. Manager Wang wiped the sweat on his head, with a smile said. Young Master Dai, by all means do not say so, it's all a no-good subordinate, this kid just came yesterday, unaware of the rules, please excuse me, please excuse me. I will immediately arrange a room for you. Speaking, he turned his head towards Tang San and Xiao Wu, his whole face apologetic saying. I beg your pardon, 2 visitors. That room was booked by young Master Dai, please choose another store. If it was according to Tang San's temper, he would let it be. With so many hotels, he did not care about changing stores. But Xiao Wu's temperament was motivated by a desire to see the world in chaos and would not so easily compromise. We will not yield, so what? Bloody snobby creatures. Do not think we will be bullied because we're young. Young Master Dai snorted coldly. Even if you wanted to yield, it is also not so easy, cursing me, wanting to leave can't happen. Young Master Dai, you. Manager Wang was greatly anxious, face had a pleading expression. Young Master Dai's eyes held a fierce light. Less nonsense. Consider all damages on me. Used to being regarded as Nyuting Academy's big sister leader, Xiao Wu, seeing the other side with this kind of arrogant expression, was immediately about to rush out and hit. Tang San caught Xiao Wu's shoulder. Leave it to me. Xiao Wu discontentedly said. Why? I will do it myself, I will hit him so his even mom doesn't recognize him. Tang San wrinkled his brow, saying. As a girl, your language should be a bit neater. Did you forget what I said before? I will always protect you. This is a matter between men. He did not let Xiao Wu go fight, first because he felt the other side was formidable, fearing Xiao Wu would come to harm. Second, if they really lost, he would rather be humiliated himself, could not let Xiao Wu be humiliated by the other side. Part 4. Hearing the words "Eoi, I will always protect you," Xiao Wu's indignant expression relaxed. Looking at Tang San, she said. Then you be careful. No need to argue, I said, you two together. Young Master Dai said impatiently. Tang San, free from conceit and arrogance, took 2 steps forward. Kindly advise me. Young Master Dai, with an evil light in his eyes, right fist suddenly lifted, accompanying a frontal rush, going straight for a strike at Tang San's chest. His movements were very simple, without any flourishes, but Tang San's expression changed. Because the opponent's fist's momentum in a flash already reached the peak effect of physical force and speed. Without plentiful combat experience, how could this bit also be possible? This time Tang San could in no way retreat, the opponent's momentum could thereupon suddenly rise, so only would cause this fist's power to further increase. Therefore, he not only did not retreat, on the contrary moved forward. Right foot in a flash advancing a step, this step cut across as much as 3 meters, immediately drawing close to his opponent. Tang San's goal was very simple, he must disrupt the opponent's offensive rhythm. Similarly, wielding his right fist, Tang San's hand in an eye blink became smooth and milky white like jade. With a muffled pang sound, young Master Dai's forward rushing body came to a sudden stop, but Tang San uncontrolledly had to withdraw 4 or 5 steps backward to be able to come to a stop. Young Master Dai's eyes revealed an astonished light. He clearly had not thought this before him, that looked like compared to him still must be several years younger junior would be able to stop his fist. Making young Master Dai most astonished was Tang San's fist. In attack power he clearly held the advantage, but currently his right hand ached to the point of splitting apart. Tang San's fist seemed to be as hard as copper molded on cast iron. Would Tang San not also be astonished? One must know, his fist not only included mysterious heaven skill, internal strength, but his physical power in itself also did not in any way match his age. Working as a blacksmith for years made his physical strength far above the average person, adding on to mysterious jade hand's properties, 3 great advantages mixing, and he still lost. The opponent's physical power was very strong, but not that kind of fierce strength, rather a condensed strength, as if all the physical power he possessed was condensed into the size of a fist, in a flash erupting in a shocking force that already caused the chi and blood in Tang San's body to roil. Good. Able to receive my fist, you have the qualifications to be my opponent. Young Master Dai coldly shouted, body again put into action. This time, his attack was not so simple, his entire person flew forward, instantly already reaching Tang San, 4 limbs bizarrely spreading open, looking like the whole body up and down was full of openings, but his 4 limbs all moved slightly, seemingly having boundless later moves. Tang San's expression already became extremely imposing, both knees slightly bent, toes simultaneously buckling in, left arm from outside circling in, right arm from inside pushing out, adopting a very peculiar posture. This strike of young Master Dai's could be said to be the unique skill that made his name. Regardless of how the opponent tried to resist the attack, he had many methods to respond. Within the seemingly full of openings movements was contained a profound attack technique. All 4 limbs could turn into weapons. But when his attack was ready to unfold, unexpectedly, an intangible force came through from underneath. That power seemed very tenacious, without any powerful force of impact, but pure toughness. Young Master Dai was in mid-air with nowhere to borrow force, so only felt his body to his surprise forcibly brought to deviate from his original course by that force. Falling to one side, his attack naturally lost its aim. What was this force? The amazed thought flashed past in young Master Dai's mind. But his fighting experience was extremely abundant, with the tiger waist twist in mid-air, body revolving sideways all the way around, he firmly landed on the ground. But at this time, Tang San's attack started. He chose just the right moment, exactly in the moment young Master Dai's legs touched down, which was also when it was the most difficult to issue strength. Using Ghost Shadow perplexing track, looking like 3 disjointed steps, Tang San already reached young Master Dai's side, both palms simultaneously clapping out, moving towards young Master Dai's both shoulders. In young Master Dai's eyes flashed an evil light, the 4 pupils seemingly simultaneously glittering at once. With an exhaling sound, both shoulders shrugging back, both fists then striking out, simultaneously lifting, and striking towards Tang San's elbows. Unyielding fist strength in mid-air repeatedly issuing audible cracks, one could see these 2 fists contained great physical strength. At the same time as both fists struck, young Master Dai's right leg shot up in a flash. Under these close-range circumstances, he unexpectedly kicked directly at Tang San's chin. One could see how good his flexibility was. Whether his pair of fists or right leg, had any one attack hit, as he exceeded Tang San's attack strength, he would immediately make Tang San lose fighting strength. But, could Tang San let him have his wish? Don't forget, this could be Tang San's specialty. The palms pushing down towards young Master Dai's both shoulders lost their aim along with the other side withdrawing his shoulders, but Tang San's hands did not withdraw, only simultaneously swiped downwards. In the wiped area, the tough hidden force young Master Dai felt before appeared once again, and his upper arms were at once driven out to 2 sides, both fists exploding out also glanced off Tang San's arms to the side, unable to hit their goal. At the same time as wiping with both hands, Tang San's left leg in a flash stepped ahead 1 step, body inclining to one side, shoulders striking straight at young Master Dai's chest. He in this way sideways, also at the right moment let young Master Dai kick up that leg. Everything seemed to be calculated well. Right now, young Master Dai's leg, already without space to dodge, also experienced the other side's attack with both hands erasing physical force, and immediately was at a disadvantage. With a muffled pang sound, Tang San's shoulders abruptly rammed young Master Dai's chest. As the spectating twin young women cried out in alarm, young Master Dai's body in a flash flew back, facing upwards, issuing a backward somersault movement, flying out no less than 5 meters before falling down. Tang San without following up, calmly looked at young Master Dai fallen on the ground. From coming into contact with the other party's chest he knew, he certainly did not hold much of an advantage. Part 5. The moment he was struck, young Master Dai's chest muscles abruptly became hard as iron, although because of the advantage young Master Dai was thrown, from that hard meeting hard his own shoulder also had a burning ache. Young Master Dai's expression was somewhat embarrassed, he had no choice but to admit that just now he took the enemy lightly. This juvenile looking like compared to him still must be several years younger before him, actual power was much greater than what he imagined. Still want to go on? Tang San calmly asked. Young Master Dai's evil eyes rose. Of course. Very good, you can force me to use spirit power, this competition is already my loss. However, properly measuring strength against you a few times, how can I not be willing? Regardless of the results of competition, afterwards today I give this room to you. Young Master Dai's evil eyes revealed not anger and hate, but a kind of peculiar light. If insisting on using words to explain it, the 4 words "Eothrill of the hunt" was perhaps the most suitable. His current expression was like seeing a beautiful woman, shoulders quivering minutely, both arms lifting. Tang San's eyes were also gradually brightening. He realized, young Master Dai in front of him was alike, if before calling him ice-coldly disdainful, then, the current him was all over filled with fiery battle anticipation. White Tiger, body enhancement. A layer of intense pale light abruptly erupted out from all over his body, young Master Dai's both arms simultaneously spread to either side, throwing out his chest, the entire body's skeleton making a cracking sound, muscles abruptly swelling, filling out the clothes to the point of bursting. Every muscle under the clothes became exceedingly distinct, even the atmosphere at his side seemed to already become irritable. The full head of blonde hair in an eye blink changed to alternating black and white, white constituting the majority, in its several black locks especially clear. On his forehead appeared 4 faint lines, 3 horizontal and 1 vertical, just right to form the character for Yoeking. His hands changed the most, to no less than twice the size compared to before changing, white fur covered the entire back of the hand, shooting from the 10 fingers short dagger-like talons continuously stretched out and withdrew from within the hand. Each talon was like the edge of a knife, length no less than 8 kun. Glimmering with a dim dazzling gleam. Young Master Dai's body slowly bent over, 4 pupils all becoming thoroughly deep blue, giving people a feeling like of a killing machine. Under his feet, 3 glittering rings of light rose up in succession, quietly ascending, 2 yellow and 1 purple, spirit rings moving around, surging spirit power forming like waves and blowing out. 1000-year spirit ring. Xiao Wu cried out in alarm, expression immediately somewhat flustered. Wanting to advance to fight shoulder to shoulder with Tang San, but stopped by Tang San. Among spirit rings, white represented 10-year, yellow represented 100-year, purple represented 1000-year. This youth before them called young Master Dai, actually already possessed a 3rd spirit ring, and also among them still had what was a 1000-year existence. One must know, looking on the surface, his age compared to Tang San and Xiao Wu was merely 3 or 4 years older, that's all. 3 spirit rings meant that young Master Dai's rank had at least reached 30, also to say, he was a spirit elder, and was a battle spirit elder possessing a powerful beast spirit. Dai Mubai, spirit, White Tiger, 37th ranked battle spirit elder. Kindly advise me. Among the domineering power, Dai Mubai announced his spirit and rank. This represented a desire for a formal challenge. Before the tremendous pressure, Tang San also started becoming different, the violent impulses hidden deep in his heart gradually emerged, eyes covered by a layer of faint purple, slowly raising his right hand. Deep blue light suddenly surged out, a cluster of deep blue grass abruptly grew from his palm, each blade of grass very tenuous, but on the surface covered with serpent lines. The blades of grass no longer had the previous flat shape, but became cylindrical, and if watching carefully, one was able to clearly see on these blades of grass, were covered with fine little thorns. Milky white light rose up from all over Tang San's body, and as if those deep blue blades of grass received some stimulation abruptly enlarged, in the blink of an eye already became as thick as a person's arm, just like rattan. The black snake lines glimmered with faint light, moving quickly like 10 big snakes spiraling around Tang San's body. 2 yellow spirit rings simultaneously rose up from under Tang San's feet, orbiting his body. Tang San, Spirit, Blue Silver Grass, 29th ranked Tool Spirit Grandmaster. Kindly advise me. Dai Mubai's eyebrows that like his hair had turned white rose at once. Your spirit is only blue silver grass. Tang San spoke Grandmaster's original words. Eothir are no good for nothing spirits, only good for nothing spirit masters. Since Tang San entered Nyuting Primary Spirit Master Academy, Dai Mubai was the second powerful spirit he encountered. Only originally the Nyuting Academy Dean, under Grandmaster's invitation at the time helping him together obtain the second spirit ring revealing the actual strength of a 42nd ranked Tool Spirit Ancestor. But that Dean's age long ago already exceeded 50, and Dai Mubai before him, probably was 16 or 17 years old, that's all. No wonder his relying on physical strength and internal strength adding to mysterious jade hand when first colliding with him fell short. This was the absolute gap of physical strength. This person before him, could be said to be the most formidable opponent Tang San had encountered. Tang San was very clear on the large difference of one spirit ring, especially when the opponent's third spirit ring was 1,000-year level. Whether added property and ability, it was all not something his 2 rings could match. This fight, Tang San was without any certainty. Perhaps, let him put to use his most secret ability, he could then have the power to contend. Well spoken, Eothir are no good for nothing spirits, only good for nothing spirit masters. I have been instructed, this blue silver grass spirit of yours is so peculiar. Dai Mubai moved, after spirit body enhancement, he seemingly completely became another person, white hair just now fluttered up, his that body brimming with explosive power already reached in front of Tang San. Both hands' 10 fingers talons simultaneously emerged, raking towards Tang San's body. Part 6. Tang San practically without hesitation retreated lightning quick, using ghost shadow perplexing track, dodging Dai Mubai's attack by a hair's breadth, and simultaneously, his released blue-silver grass spirit also very quickly moved up, a circle of blue and black thick vines spiraling out, from all directions surging towards Dai Mubai's body. But Tang San himself, like he was hidden among the vines quietly disappeared. In Dai Mubai's evil eye light flashed continuously, entire body covered by surging spirit power, both hands dancing beneath, the vines rushing to his side one by one cut open. He originally intended to directly cut off these blue-silver grass thick vines, but he realized with a shock, these vines were unexpectedly extremely tough. With his added 37 rank spirit power's tiger claws when swinging at the vines he could only cut halfway through, and was unable to completely cut free. But in a very short time of the vines leaving the tiger claws range, it could very quickly heal itself. A faint sweet tea fragrance spread among the vines. These vines were seemingly inexhaustible, unceasingly welling out from all directions. Even though Dai Mubai's strength and speed both were substantially increased under the effect of the spirit, he still could not rush out of the range of the vines. This was blue-silver grass? Dai Mubai was greatly astounded. He had never thought that blue-silver could be this fierce. The opponent compared to him had one less spirit ring, yet blue-silver grass was able to temporarily tangle him. If their spirit rings were equal, then this fight's victor would be very hard to tell. Dai Mubai never was a patient person, and his love to outshine others was particularly powerful. His intense gaze abruptly shone. Dai Mubai's evil eyes suddenly became white. Among the 3 spirit rings over his body, the first spirit ring abruptly radiated greatly, taking the form of a white light cover, blocking the vines around him so they were unable to approach his body. Immediately following, the second spirit ring on his body also shone. A huge white light in a flash condensed, accompanying Dai Mubai a tiger roar, and a milky white ball of light shot out of his mouth. The abilities which Dai Mubai's first 2 spirit rings added, were separately White Tiger Shield Body Barrier as well as White Tiger Intense Light Wave, right now launched simultaneously, instantly unfolding their terrible might. Looking from outside, Dai Mubai's body was already surrounded by the enormous vines, but just when Xiaowu slightly relaxed her breath, suddenly, countless white light from in the crevices of the vines abruptly shot out, immediately following, a dull roar abruptly exploded. The blue-silver grass-forming vines scattered broken in all directions, a formidable shock wave swept across the Rose Hotel hall in complete disorder. The spirit was one with the host. Tang San's expression instantly paled, retreating a step to be able to stand steady. The white light gradually disappeared, revealing Dai Mubai's majestic figure. Tattered blue-silver grass also began to condense again by Tang San's side, but the quantity compared to before was already a lot less. Tang San, beast spirit's attack strength will always be more powerful compared to tool spirits. Although the power of your blue-silver grass surprised me, in the end it still is unable to pin me down. Tang San smiled weakly, saying, "That is certain." Suddenly, on Tang San's body the second spirit ring abruptly shone, Dai Mubai's body abruptly stiffened at once, a layer of fine vines that had appeared on his body at some unknown time, following Tang San's second spirit ring's great release of light, in a flash grew, firmly binding Dai Mubai's body therein. The piercing thorns on the vines, although only very short, continuously tightened down, bringing Dai Mubai's whole body severe pain. At the same time, he realized his body unexpectedly began to go numb. Long ago, when Tang San still had not reached the 20th rank, Grandmaster already thought well on from what kind of spirit beast his second spirit ring must be hunted. Tang San's second spirit ring was from a kind of plant system spirit beast called Ghost Vine. The second spirit ring's highest assimilation spirit ring age was 764 years. This Ghost Vine spirit ring Tang San's obtained, at least surpassed 600 years cultivation. Ghost Vine was a kind of exceedingly horrifying plant system spirit beast. It had extremely powerful nerve poison. One need only be stung by on its piercing thorns, and poison would immediately circulate, until dissolving into pus water, becoming the Ghost Vine's fertilizer. And also, what spirit masters feared the most, was the Ghost Vine's parasitic ability. When it attacked, it would by its own accord send out countless minute seeds, directly attached to the victim's body. Ghost Vine alone provided enough capabilities, or else as these seeds absorbed sufficient nutrients, they would grow on the parasite host's body, and as nerve poison spread in a short while, the effect would be the same. Obtaining this more than 600-year Ghost Vine spirit ring, even if it was Newting Academy's dean, that 42nd rank tool spirit ancestor, also took a lot of trouble, relying on himself rather than mutually restraining spirit, could not easily subdue it, letting Tang San accomplish the final killing strike. After obtaining the Ghost Vine spirit ring, Tang San's own properties substantially elevated on all sides. Blue spirit grass became even tougher, and also turned similar to Ghost Vine's outward appearance, only the color and veined pattern maintained its original appearance. And its poison also became nerve paralyzing. Its effect greatly increased. Even if it was in the air, the volatile smell could also give rise to a certain effect. And the ability the Ghost Vine spirit ring gave Tang San was parasite. By infusing spirit power, Ghost Vine's parasite ability activated effect still must surpass the original Ghost Vine itself. Under spirit power infusion, parasite seeds would grow in an instant, being unable to guard against. Could be said to be an extremely insidious control ability. Both blue-silver grass toughness, from that 37th rank Dai Mubai with White Tiger blade was unable to completely cut apart could be seen. He in the end was still underestimating Tang San, underestimating blue-silver grass, therefore at the end of the road. Seeing it Dai Mubai with an astonished light in his eyes, Tang San said, "My blue-silver grass is poisonous, before you should already have inhaled some." Also launching emitting powerful spirit power attack abilities to cut open my blue-silver grass binding, was sure to cause your internal blood and qi to circulate faster, causing the poison to take effect even faster. Like this, although you yourself did not feel anything, in fact the surface of the skin already began to become somewhat numb, unable to discover the blue-silver grass parasite seeds. Therefore, you lose. Dai Mubai looked at Tang San. Right now, other than his head, his entire body was already wrapped under blue-silver grass, in his evil eyes an ominous glint continuously sparkling. Good, what a blue-silver grass! If I same as you only had 2 spirit rings, then I really would have lost, as my body is already numb, it's very difficult to struggle free from the blue-silver grass. But, after all, compared to you I have 1 more spirit ring. I will still let you have a look at my 3rd spirit ring ability. The purple ring of light flashed a light in an eye blink. Around Dai Mubai's body the air became distorted, his evil eye suddenly turning blood red. Immediately following, the blue-silver grass binding his body suddenly expanded, and with a loud bang, all the blue-silver grass binding him, consisting of parasite blue-silver grass seeds, completely burst into broken bits. Dai Mubai's body, unexpectedly appeared to have changed a second time. Tang San inhaled a cold breath. Is this a 1000-year spirit ring ability?